A quick little announcement before we start our episode this week. Coming up on May 2nd and 3rd, we have our Simplicity Parenting Care Professionals Seminar. And the theme this time round is discipline and guidance, setting boundaries, kind, loving, but clear boundaries. This course the seminar is led by me personally. It's live online, 3 hours on Saturday, 3 hours on Sunday, people all around the world. And that's coming up not too far away. Okay, bye-bye for now. And, well, hello for now, because on with this week's episode.
Well, welcome back to the Simplicity Diaries. Gosh, this week, a major treat for us. Laura Carlin is with us. Hi, Laura.
Hello. Thank you so much for
Laura,
having me.
oh my goodness, it's such a pleasure. Laura is a very well-known author, contributor to this whole theme of decluttering, organizing. It'd be fair to say, Laura, this is not the single focus, but this has been the main focus for a phase now for you, right?
Absolutely. Honestly, since I was really my whole life, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Laura's going to join us today to give an overview of decluttering, organizing, and in this episode. And then, as you know, in the three, have three other episodes, and that will be in simplefamilyliving.org. And you can go right there and see the other three episodes that take a deeper dive into each of these themes that we're going to overview today. So, Laura, let's start off with this theme of decluttering with love and intention. I actually really enjoy that heading that you write about in your book. Can you tell us a little bit about what is it, the decluttering secret?
Sure. So this is something I've been giving a lot of thought to over the last number of years, and I've just been noticing for myself and for others that we can declutter our homes and still not feel completely at peace. Or we can declutter our homes and the clutter comes back and we feel like it's a cycle. And so I just realized that in addition to that outer work of decluttering and organizing, there's something else that's very important at play, and that's an inner work.
Mm,
And so I believe that how we care for our homes is how we care for ourselves, and that our families feel this. And so the decluttering secret is that how we go about our decluttering, meaning our energy, our intentions, our self-talk, that can be as or more important than what we're ultimately choosing to keep or to let go of.
And Laura, the younger the child, in some ways, the more influence our inner gestalt, our inner gesture will have in the sense that their mirror neurons within their brains of the little ones really are aware of they experience on an involuntary way our emotional our inner world. So decluttering and organizing, you know, and having ourselves come to a more peaceful place inside is going to have a direct influence on them.
Absolutely. And
Mm.
that's that is what I realize for certainly for our children, and also it's a more kinder and more compassionate place as well for ourselves. And so I really think that it's that shift from fear and judgment, which go together, to curiosity and to appreciation. And then that's when things can soften more and there can be change. And that, in many ways, is the real work, as much as all the benefits we get from actually doing the outer physical work.
It's almost become a cliche now. Put the mask on your own face first before assisting others on an aeroplane.
Hmm.
It's that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So the second heading that you write about, and you're pretty concrete about this, where you go into tips, but particularly how to start. Can you give us a taste of that, of how to start decluttering?
Absolutely. So again, it's starting on the inside. It's having that inner alignment first for a number of reasons. But for one, that clarity and that why we're decluttering is a very powerful motivator because it can be quite a process. And so we really want to have that North Star. So I suggest actually starting by clearing our inner clutter. And our inner clutter is just all those thoughts in our head. And it's everything from what am I having for dinner? What do I need to get at the grocery store? That appointment I need to schedule, all the way to our life purpose, our goals and dreams, and everything in between. And that I find can be like the most overwhelming thing for parents is just kind of having all that stuff in our heads, especially during a time, especially with young children, when we may not have time to move that forward, move those dreams and goals forward. And even sometimes our decluttering, we have to handle decluttering differently because we may not be able to block out an entire day or big chunks of time. And so just taking the time to go through a process of clearing inner clutter can help us just relax, can help us realize, okay, there's everything, when it's in our heads, it's more overwhelming. When we see it on paper and we process that inner clutter, it can help us relax. And it can also help us clarify our values when we start thinking about that vision for our family, our goals and dreams. So we know why we're decluttering. And that way, too, when we are decluttering or going about our daily rhythms with our children, it's more tied to a purpose and meaning, which can make that day to day, because with kids there is so much well, I know in simplicity parenting we want to create rhythm, not routine, but sometimes it can feel kind of mundane and routine, when it's tied to a higher purpose, and when we realize, no, this is really what I'm supposed to be doing right now because I've taken care of all those things in my head, we can show up much more present and connected and enjoy that time with our
Mm.
kids.
Yeah, so that one doesn't go about, decluttering in a frenetic way, which would leave us more stressed anyway. I hope the irony of that would be lost on no one, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because then going back to your first point, the children aren't soothed. The whole idea of decluttering is to have a safe harbor, to have a peaceful
Hmm.
space. And if we go about it in a way that is definitely not peaceful, well, you know, that's a little strange.
Hmm.
The then you go into these four different practices. Now, I know we're going to do a deeper dive into this in other, in a soon to be released episode. But can you just at least give us the headlines of those four layers?
Sure. So there's four practices to creating and keeping a clutter-free home. So the first practice is decluttering, and that is the process of choosing what are we keeping and what are we letting go of. And then the next practice is organizing, and that's when we determine where the things we've chosen to keep will live in our home. So we designate a location for each of the things we've chosen to keep. And then there's maintaining, which is actually just developing the habit of putting things back where they belong. And then the fourth practice is preventing, which is how do we stop clutter from even accumulating in the first place?
Yeah, I can see you've thought about this a lot because you can just put it so succinctly. That's gorgeous. So this is our fourth area, and it's good to leave this to last. What are the decluttering challenges? Can you again just give us an overview because you've done this a lot in your life. You've helped myriad people do it as well, um, in your, coming alongside parents consulting and so on. But can you give us some of the, like one or two of those major challenges?
Yeah, so always I would say that it's the same types of clutter that people struggle with. It is sentimental clutter, which is probably the most challenging, unwanted gifts, inherited items, too expensive to let go of items. And then I'd probably say close to that is books, like books and coursework. So that tends to be the most challenging types of clutter to deal with. And then I would say alongside that, even though it's not a type of clutter, the question we get most asked most often is, what do I do if my partner is not on board? Finding, one person likes to live more clutter-free than the other and how you negotiate that.
There was a dad once who it was I wouldn't put him as a hoarder, but he liked to keep a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
And so the first step was the mum said, "Okay, you keep all your stuff in the garage. Keep as much as you like there." And he put up all these shelves, and that was pretty good. And so she decluttered and organized and found places for everything. And th this was an avowed keeper. He liked to keep everything. Anyway, one day she found him sitting in her study, and she said, like it was unusual, you're sitting there reading, and she said to him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, Court, this is just so peaceful to be here." And she said at that point, she just played a bit of a joke on him because okay, fine. And then she took his chair when he wasn't around and put it amongst all these mountains of boxes and shelves. And
Mhm.
she put that chair out amongst all that. And he came and he said, "Okay, I get the point." Because he
Mhm.
sure didn't want to sit there and
Mhm.
read because it gave him no peace.
Mhm.
Isn't that,
That's
it's,
it's a wonderful story on so many levels because it gets into a lot of things we'll talk about later about the importance of starting with your own clutter first and inspiring by example, and how sometimes people just they think they don't care, but they've really actually never experienced what it feels like to be in a clutter-free space.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Well, we are going to dig into those over at the Simple Family Living site. Go on over and check these out if you're listening. And the Simple Family Living site is just full of all sorts of helpful information on little workshops, right through to sort of 7, 8, 9 week, very strongly assisted journeys. And more recently, we've added I don't know if you've seen this, Laura, but we've added a search capacity where you go out on and you can search, and all the hundreds and hundreds of lectures I've given, all the books I've written, all the podcasts, they've all been fed into good old AI.
Mhm.
And so you ask it a question and it brings up 5 or 6 headline pieces of advice, and then it goes right to the, like right to the podcast where you'll find that. And apparently it's hallucination free. I'm learning new terms. But yeah, so that's all over at Simple Family Living. But for now, let's draw to a close, and we'll pick this up over at Simple Family Living site. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.